Hi, I'm Marilyn. I run a tech empire worth billions, and I did it without any family support. That's the short version, anyway. The longer version? I'm sipping champagne at 30,000 feet in my private jet, scrolling through emails when it appears. A message that freezes my fingers mid swipe. Marilyn, honey, it's Mom and Dad. We miss you so much. 15 years. 15 years since they walked away from me at Gate 37 at O'Hare. I was 16. They were going on a short vacation to work on their marriage. They left me with a backpack, $200, and empty promises to return in a week. They never came back. Everything okay, Marilyn? Jessica looks up from her laptop across the cabin. My executive assistant misses nothing. Define okay. My parents just emailed me after ghosting me for 15 years. Jessica's eyebrows shoot up. The ones who abandoned me at an airport? Yeah, those parents. I forward the email to her. She reads it, her expression darkening. They mentioned your recent feature in Fortune. Convenient timing. I laugh without humor. Nothing says we love you like reaching out after your daughter makes the 40 under 40 list. The plane begins its descent toward San Francisco. Below us, the sprawling campus of Mary Tech comes into view. 5 buildings, 3,000 employees, and the AI software that revolutionized virtual reality. All built from the code I started writing in a shelter for teens. They say they're having some financial difficulties. What a surprise. Want me to block them? Jessica asks. My phone buzzes with a call from Daniel, my business partner and the only person who believed in me when I was coding in a public library after dropping out of high school. Mari, just saw the quarterly numbers. We're crushing it. Dinner tonight to celebrate? Rain check? Something came up. Everything all right? My parents reached out. Silence on the line. Daniel was there during those first years, saw me cry myself to sleep. What do they want? To reconnect, and probably my money. Tell them to go to hell. I smile despite myself. Actually, I have a better idea. The car drops me at my mansion in the hills. 6 bedrooms, a view of the bay, and enough security to make Fort Knox jealous. I kick off my heels and stare at their email again. We've been following your success. So proud. Difficult times financially. Hoped we could reconnect. I pour myself a whiskey and walk to the wall of windows. From abandoned teenager to tech mogul. I built this life while they were doing whatever the hell they pleased after ditching their own daughter. I could ignore them. I could tell them off. But revenge is a dish best served with strategic planning. Jessica, call Marco at that private investigation firm we used for the merger background checks, and clear my schedule for next week. Going somewhere? No, but my parents think they found their meal ticket. Let's see how hungry they really are. 3 days later, Marco sat across from me in my home office, sliding a thick folder across my glass desk. Your parents are drowning in debt. Mortgaged their house 3 times, maxed out 7 credit cards, and took predatory loans to maintain appearances. They're 6 weeks from foreclosure. I flipped through the pages of financial disaster. And after abandoning me? They moved to Phoenix, had another kid 2 years later, a daughter, Vanessa. She's 23 now, working as a barista, barely speaks to them. My stomach clenched. They'd replaced me. Started over with a clean slate and a new child. The memory hit me like a slap. Mom checking her watch at the airport. Marilyn, wait here with the bags. We need to check on our connection. Dad's awkward hug. Be right back, kiddo. The dawning realization, hours later, that they weren't coming back. There's something else, Marco continued. Found court records from when you were 15. They told the judge raising a teenager was too burdensome and they needed a fresh start. My phone buzzed. Jessica texting. Your parents called again. Want to meet tomorrow? Thanks, Marco. Transfer an extra $5,000 for the thorough work. I chose the meeting spot carefully. An upscale cafe visible from the street but private enough for conversation. I arrived early, watching them through the window. Mom still dyed her hair that unnatural blonde. Dad had gained weight, his designer shirt straining at the buttons despite the frayed cuffs. Marilyn! My baby girl! Mom rushed toward me, arms outstretched. I stepped back. Let's keep this professional. Their faces fell in practiced disappointment as we sat down. You look amazing, Dad said. That fortune cover was something else. Cut the crap! It's been 15 years! Why now? They exchanged glances. We've made mistakes, Mom said. Terrible mistakes. But we're family. We always knew you were special, Dad added. So driven and smart. And your financial troubles have nothing to do with reaching out? They flinched. Mom recovered first. We're having a temporary setback. But that's not why. Do you even remember what you told the family court judge? That I was a burden? Dad leaned forward. We were different people then. Selfish and stupid. Did you know I spent 3 months in a shelter? That I dropped out because I couldn't afford school and food? A young woman approached our table. Dark hair, eyes exactly like mine. Sorry I'm late. She glanced nervously between us. Mom brightened. Marilyn, this is your sister Vanessa. Vanessa looked as uncomfortable as I felt. Half-sister, and they didn't tell me they abandoned you until last week. Dad cleared his throat. Girls, what's past is past. We need to stick together now. The bank is taking the house and we've got medical bills. How much? I asked coolly. 300,000 would clear everything, Mom said quickly. I see. I smiled, watching hope fill their eyes. Why don't you come to my place tomorrow? We can discuss how I might help. Later, at my office, Daniel shook his head as I explained my plan. They don't deserve a penny, Murray. They won't get one, I assured him. Jessica, call my lawyer. I need hidden cameras installed at the mansion tonight. Already scheduled, Jessica replied, and I've got the documents ready for them to sign. Perfect. I leaned back. Let's see how far they'll go to use me one more time. My parents' jaws dropped the moment they stepped into my mansion's marble foyer. Mom ran her fingers over the crystal chandelier while Dad's eyes locked onto my Picasso. Is that real? Dad pointed at the painting. Everything here is real, Dad. Unlike your sudden interest in my life. Jessica appeared with champagne. Mom took a flute, her eyes scanning the room like she was mentally pricing everything. Such a gorgeous home, darling. You've done so well for yourself. Dad slugged back his champagne. We always knew you had potential. Remember how we got you that computer when you were 12? The one you pawned a month later? Sure do. Their smiles tightened, but held. Mom wandered toward my awards wall, touching my Forbes trophy. We were just talking about your success at our country club. Everyone's so impressed with what our daughter accomplished. Your country club? The one Marco's report says you can't afford anymore? Dad's face reddened. Temporary setbacks. Once we get back on our feet. With my money, Mom set down her glass hard. We're your parents. We gave you life. And then you took off with yours, leaving me behind. We were suffocating, Dad blurted, then caught himself. I mean, times were tough. Tell me more about that suffocation, Dad. I pressed a hidden button under the coffee table. Mom sighed dramatically. It wasn't easy raising such a difficult child. We needed space to rebuild our lives. So abandoning me was strategic? Dad nodded, loosened by expensive champagne. Best decision we ever made. We were drowning in debt even then. Couldn't make a fresh start with a teenager in tow. I smiled tightly. Speaking of fresh starts, I'm hosting a gala tonight for my investors. You should join us. 2 hours later, we entered the ballroom of the Fairmont. Silicon Valley's elite mingled under crystal chandeliers, and my parents preened like peacocks. I introduced them to tech billionaires and venture capitalists, while Jessica hovered nearby with her phone discreetly recording. Marilyn's success comes from her drive, the CEO of Quantum Solutions said to my father. Dad clapped my shoulder possessively. Gets it from me. I taught her everything about business. Sacrificed everything for her education. Mom nodded vigorously. We invested all our resources in Marilyn. Recognized her gift early. Daniel approached, eyebrow raised. I gave him the signal. Marilyn, those investment documents need signatures before the bank closes. I turned to my parents. Perfect timing. The paperwork for your financial assistance is ready. In a private conference room, Jessica placed folders before them. 300,000, Mom whispered reverently. Just sign where indicated, I instructed. Standard investment terms. They scribbled their signatures without reading a word. I collected the documents, smiling. Congratulations. You've just signed sworn affidavits confirming you abandoned your minor daughter at an airport, defrauded welfare services, and are now attempting to extort money. Dad lunged for the papers. You tricked us! I stepped back, holding up my phone. Every conversation since you entered my home is recorded, including your admission that abandoning me was the best decision you ever made. Mom's face crumpled. You wouldn't use that against your own parents. I pulled out Marco's report. I have the court transcripts where you called me. A burden. The police report I filed when you vanished. And now your own confessions. Dad's face turned purple. You can't do this to us. We're family. Family doesn't abandon a 16-year-old at an airport. I walked back toward the gala ballroom, my parents trailing behind me, pleading. Marilyn, please, we can work this out privately. I stepped onto the small stage where a microphone waited. The room quieted as I tapped it twice. Thank you all for coming tonight. As you know, Marytech's mission has always been about connection. Tonight, I want to share a personal story about disconnection. The projector behind me lit up with the airport security footage from 15 years ago. My teenage self sitting alone at gate 37, hour after hour, as the timestamps changed. This is me at 16, when my parents walked away and never came back. Gasps rippled through the crowd. In the corner, Mom tried slipping toward the exit. Jessica blocked her path. Recently, these same parents reached out after seeing my success. Let's hear why. The screen switched to footage from my living room, captured just hours ago. Dad's voice boomed through the speakers. We were drowning in debt. Couldn't make a fresh start with a teenager in tow. Best decision we ever made. A venture capitalist I'd worked with for years shook his head in disgust. Shameful. My parents came to me asking for $300,000 to solve their financial problems. Instead, I'm announcing the launch of the Fresh Start Foundation with a $3 million endowment to help abandoned teenagers build their futures. Applause thundered through the room. Daniel stepped forward with a giant ceremonial check. Dad surged toward the stage. That's our money! You owe us! Security intercepted him as horrified guests pulled out phones, recording his meltdown. You ungrateful brat! We gave you life! Mom pushed through the crowd. Everything she's saying is a lie. We supported her dreams. I gestured to the screen, now showing them signing the affidavits without reading them. The evidence suggests otherwise. By morning, their meltdown had gone viral. Their country club revoked their membership. Dad's few remaining business associates cut ties publicly. Their Phoenix neighbors gave interviews about those awful people who abandoned their daughter and neglected the second one. They showed up at my office 3 days later, sobbing and desperate. We're so sorry, Marilyn. We were terrible parents. Please forgive us. We've lost everything, Dad whimpered. Our reputation, our friends. Sounds like what happened to me at 16. Except I was also homeless. We can change. We'll do better. You had 15 years to do better. Time's up. As security escorted them out, Vanessa walked in. We'd been texting since the gala. That was intense, she said, awkwardly hovering by the door. Sorry you got caught in the crossfire. Don't be. They never told me I had a sister. They barely noticed me unless they needed something. 2 weeks later, we stood on the tarmac beside my private jet. Jessica checked her tablet. Your parents' house was officially foreclosed on yesterday. Daniel grinned. Karma's finally catching up. Good. I turned to Vanessa. Ready for your first day as the foundation's new director? She smiled nervously. Still can't believe you offered me the job. Who better to help abandoned teens than someone who understands neglect? We climbed the stairs to my jet, my chosen family surrounding me. As we took off, I looked down at the shrinking city below, thinking of that scared teenage girl at gate 37. She'd waited for parents who never returned. Now I was leaving with the family I'd built instead, flying away just as they once did, but with people who would never abandon me. Do parents who abandon their children deserve any forgiveness when they only return after seeing their child's success? Would you have exposed them publicly like Marilyn did, or handled it differently? The line between justified revenge and cruelty can be thin. Did Marilyn cross it? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story of sweet revenge against toxic family members, hit that like button to help more people find it. Subscribe to see more stories of people standing up for themselves against those who tried to use them. New revenge stories posted daily.